in video stores because I didn't want to have nightmares, and this one probably would have given me nightmares.
Yeah, it wasn't your bag. I get it. I mean, I was the opposite. I loved going to the horror section, and I didn't want to watch everything because I was scared still at that time. But I love looking at the different things, like kind of picking one, a scary one to look at that I could, that would give me that confidence. And so I just picked one, act like I was thinking about renting it, especially if I saw another teen girl in there. I'd be like, yeah, I watch this. This is my thing right here.
Another teen girl.
Yeah.
I do picture you like giving the front cover like a knowing nod, and then turn it over, but giving like okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is what we got here. Okay.
Yeah, and then maybe you put it back, and you're like, maybe not tonight.
Yeah.
And you walk off with like the Journey of Natty Gann or something.
Or Nen. Was it Nen? Was that the one with Jodie Foster? I don't know why that one just came to my head, but I remember renting that one year.
Okay. I don't remember that one that much.
Yeah, well.
Did you have a strong background with Tremors? Or?
Yeah, I think, kind of like you said with your father, I mean, during this time, it was me and my parents were separated at the time, and so I think that's why I have a lot of memories of it, because this one, and I mean, I could be lying to you, but I feel like this is one, and I feel like we did watch this one where it was the weekend coming up. I'd gotten out of school. My mom said, you can go rent a movie. I rented Tremors, and I knew that I was going to be with my dad that weekend at his apartment, and go over there, and my dad, watching Cops, but I was like, no, Dad, I got Tremors. Let's watch this instead. And so just pulling up the TV tray, just a couple of guys shooting the shit, watching Tremors, talking about life, why mom is not coming home. Kind of that's.
Now, did your dad like the movie?
He did. He liked the movie. He's not the funny thing is that my parents have never been, or have not never. The last theater movie that they went to was Platoon, and that was on a date that they went to.
Holy hell!
Yeah, so
whoa.
I mean, you set the bar kind of high at that point for what you're going, and yeah, but he'll watch movies, and I mean they're addicted to Netflix now. But I remember back then him watching it with me, and I think there was some joy in his heart from watching that.
It wasn't. It certainly didn't have as much an impact as Desperado did.
No, oh god, we'll get into that later on when we do a whole episode on that, on the whole Desperado's gate of.
Hit us up with an email if you have a fun story about how you experienced Tremors for the first time at bbkaratepodcast@gmail.com. And let's dive into some statistics about this movie, Mark.
Yeah, well, of course, this was funded by Universal. Steve Wilson and Brent Maddox are the in charge of the screenplay here for Tremors, and quite a few others. We got Batteries Not Included.
Oh my gosh!
Short Circuit 1 and 2. I
hit
mean,
after hit.
You want me to
after
keep
hit.
spitting?
I do, because I want you to Ghost Dad.
Ghost Dad. Come on, man. I mean,
and Marcus, have you ever seen Ghost Dad? When was the last time you saw it?
The last time I saw it, I would think 4 or 5 years ago, is probably on TV. There's a few movies that I always watch for, that I'll always talking to my remote to see if they're coming up anywhere. One of them is just one of the guys.
Yeah, I get that.
Another one is Gleaming the Cube. And then another one is Ghost Dad. They're just like movies that I just love to watch. Like, they just really take me back to
I love Gleaming the Cube.
Yeah.
Did you tell me you told me a weird story about when the first time you saw Ghost Dad once, didn't you?
The first time I saw Ghost Dad was in Odessa, Texas, Dollar Theater. It was kind of like the epicenter of fun in Odessa, Texas, if you want to call it that. And but it had I can't remember what it was called, like a Chuck E. Cheese. You had your pizza, you had your video games there, but it was called something different. There was something Odessa-y sounding. But in that little shopping area, you had that pizza place, you had the Dollar Theater, you had Video One, which was, all the kids, before Blockbuster got big, and before we had one, you had Video One for your game rentals, your movie rentals, and stuff like that. So we went and saw Ghost Dad. I went with a friend and his parents to go see it. Loved it all the way through. Got out of the movie, coming out, just talking to my buddy, like, oh man. And at this time, I was 11 years old, 10 years old or whatever, and coming out of the movie telling him how much I loved it, how cool these parts were. That was so cool. He was a magician. His dad helped him lift up the box. I mean, how cool would that be to be in class and do that? And then all of a sudden, his mom turns around, and I'll put a pin in this, that they are very religious people. I'm sure they still are. And they looked at me, and the mom said, Mark, you can't build it up too much, or you need to not like. She said something in the vein of like you can't enjoy it too much. He was a ghost, but when you die, you either go to heaven or hell. And, that hit hard.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
It's like here you are walking off high on life from this uplifting film about a father who would brave the afterlife to better his relationship with his children, and you get brought down a peg immediately.
I'm either going to heaven or hell, and at that moment, I thought, I think I'm going to hell. Because I had done quite a few bad things. I mean,
listen,
of course they weren't on the 7 sins. I don't think at that time.
No, but we don't. Yeah, I think as a child, the idea of hell, it is tough to think you're going anywhere else but hell.
Right. I think that's the case.
I mean, for me personally, it's like everything's a sin. Like the uncontrollable thoughts I have on a daily basis are sin. Therefore, if I were to die while having that thought without being forgiven, I'm going to hell. I thought about that quite a bit as a kid, more than I probably needed to.
So I transgress. Let's get back to it with Tremors. 1990, we have Steve Wilson, Brett Maddox, who we mentioned, were the in charge of the screenplay for this. Then we have Ron Underwood, who was attached as director, directed it. This was brought in by Universal. And so now with Steve Wilson, Brett Maddox, and Ron Underwood, and also bringing up the rear on kind of the brains of the operation, Nancy Roberts, they would go on to form Stampede Entertainment in the following year in 93. And so with Stampede Entertainment, they brought to you all the rest of the Tremors catalog.
Yeah. It seems like they were created it just to produce Tremors movies.
I mean, I feel like they thought, okay, we know we can make money off of this if we make it ourselves with our budget, but we're not going to get greenlit for 5 more Tremors movies from Universal, probably.
Keep the budget low. There's no middleman now. We're the production company. Right. It makes sense. And Brett Maddox and Steve Wilson, maybe this will get its own episode one day, but I just want to, because they wrote one of the bigger flops in Hollywood history, and also one of the biggest PR. I remember, like as a kid, other than like Batman '89, which I have memories of, and I was pretty young. Like they wrote Wild Wild West,
man.
And that
remember
was
those Burger King glasses?
Oh my god!
Oh my god! I mean,
I wish I had mine. I doubt they're worth anything, but it'd be nice to have. I mean, that was such a fun movie. Huge soundtrack. The soundtrack probably made more money than the actual movie did, and then it just sort of became a flop. But so they wrote that. So they were, riding high on their resume, and even into the mid '90s or 2000s, late '90s, 2000s with Wild Wild West.
Yeah, I mean, if you're those two guys, if you're Maddox or Wilson, you're coming up to Universal and you're saying, I got an idea for Rubber Worms, and you throw down a piece of paper that said, I wrote Ghost Dad or Batteries Not Included. Universal's...
They're listening.
Oh, come on.
You're getting a meeting for sure.
You're getting the sit down, and you're getting the talk, and you're getting some money at the end of that meeting.
And this movie was they like we said, they greenlit it, and they made it for $11 million. It opened January, like we said, January 19th, 1990, and it made $3.7 million opening weekend, and it ran at about 1,400 theaters. To give you an idea, this Under Siege our first episode, that one ran at about 2,400 theaters, maybe a little more. But the interesting thing is the cup of coffee this movie has in the movie theaters, which is like almost only 3 weeks.
Yeah, coffee's still hot when they left the building.
Coffee's still hot when they leave. Yeah. It went on to gross a box office of $16 million, which shows you like there must have been quite a bit of word of mouth, because I don't know how it makes $16 million in a movie theater without increasing its gross each week.
Sure, and it's something to where I think of that budget and I think of $11 million. I think of the month it came out. I think of January, or it did come out in January. And with a lot of these production companies, Universal included, the big monsters of them, they got it. You're talking about any movie that you're coming out with, they want to make that money back and then some, or 50% on top,
right,
with that return on investment. But I got to think for this $11 million. Opening weekend, you're nearly looking at a quarter of your budget coming back in one weekend. Maybe that's pretty good. I definitely don't see it as great.
I guess if it had a 2.9 average weeks run in the theaters, so it just feels like with 3 weeks, if it starts at 3.7,
right?
Does the following weekend make $5 million?
It did increase. It did increase.
Okay,
it did increase.
That's huge.
Week after week, yeah.
So that's a fun. I don't know if I was ever going to to star in a movie or to make a movie. I think it's so much cooler when they increase over like Mighty Ducks. Its first weekend, it didn't do that great, but its second weekend, when people are like, "Oh, take your kids to go see this movie," like word of mouth stuff, works better than anything. And obviously, I think Tremors is certainly a movie you'd leave the theaters and wanting to talk to someone about.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you think about the case to where, again, we bring back what ifs, but what if the internet would have been around in 1990 when this movie came out, and word of mouth would have been huge? I mean, it would have blown up, I think, with it back then, with the time surrounding it. But if we had the technology that we do now, it would have been huge. And I mean, that goes for a lot of movies, though, as well.
Yeah, I mean, but specifically, I think it absolutely applies to this one. The runtime of this movie is 96 minutes, and they do a great job using that short amount of time.
They do.
And I loved every minute of it.
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I was going to move on to 90s releases, but what about runtime were you going to say?
No, I was going into the releases with you. I think we're on the same path
here we go,
because
baby.
we want to talk about these movies that came out, too, which are
January 1990 releases.
Whew. Go ahead, kick us off.
Okay, well, I don't know if you remember, I saw this movie on Cinemax a lot. Ski School.
Oh, man.
Ski School with Dean Cameron, who is also known as Chainsaw from the movie Back to School.
That was actually Summer School. Those are my notes are wrong. We don't want to do Rodney Dangerfield mess up here. And
Summer School, yeah. So his name was Chainsaw in Summer School, not the Rodney Dangerfield classic high diving movie called Back to School.
Yeah.
And then
with Zabka too.
Oh yeah. And then also coming out in January of 1990. Not a big month really. I mean, there's certainly some fun movies that come out, but like you can see this as a dump month for theaters or studios, as you were saying. Internal Affairs, most Richard Gere movies I was not allowed to see because they usually involved sex.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you had to involve sex with Richard. I think it was in his contract that sex had to be 41 minutes.
I will show my ass on this screen.
Right, yeah. And Internal Affairs. I wasn't having that as a kid. I don't need it. The affairs I have are in elementary school, and I'm
with GI Joes.
Yeah, and that's it.
Brain Dead, starring Bill Pullman and Bill Paxton, the two Bills of my childhood, directed by Jeff Burr, who also directed what, Marcus?
Jeff Burr did Pumpkinhead 2 and Puppet Master 4 and 5.
What were the taglines for 4 and 5? Do you remember?
I can look real quick. I forgot. I don't know.
You're a Puppet Master fan, though.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I love Puppet Master. Yeah, they're fun. They're fun little family movies that you can watch if you're trying to get started in the horror niche. They're fun little bloody ones that you can do. But
if you want to get your kids interested in horror but don't want to really scare them, Puppet Master 4 and 5 might be the way to go.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll put those up somewhere with the taglines, but I can't see anything on there.
So, and then probably this couldn't have had a theatrical release.
No, I don't think it did.
No. Okay.
I would have gone and seen it.
I would have too. Yeah. We would have been doing this instead of Tremors. No Retreat, No Surrender 3, Blood Brothers.
Oh man,
I love this series so much because most of it was so much straight to video stuff. So I was always renting these from my primetime video or whatever video warehouse wherever I was going and I didn't have a late fee.
Oh yeah, I mean the fighting in part 3 is just unbelievable. I mean it's so good. I mean much better than part 1. I mean you had Keith Vitale too in 3 from Punisher.
Where was he from?
Punisher. Remember the guitar playing guy?
Yes.
Just sits down and plays that cool ass song before he tries to kill. Oh man, God, it just brings back so many memories. Great stuff.
So yeah, that's what was released, and so some more facts about this movie. Brent Maddock and Steve Wilson, they didn't want to sell the script. They didn't want to sell it without Ron Underwood attached as director. I guess they had a lot of faith in him as a director, and they must have believed that he saw their vision and wanted that to be the head of it. Filmed in Lone Pine, California, a population of about 1,800 people as of 2020. So. It fits for Perfection Nevada. This tiny little ghost town.
Yeah, and I think like when we first see the sign for Perfection Nevada, when it's coming in on it. That's after we meet Earl and Val, and they're driving back in from their job and back into the town. But I think that we see like the population sign, and I think it's the same thing as it was listed back, I think it's like around that number still too. And I always think of when I see Tremors, I think of that now when I've looked up the facts for Lone Pine and where it's filmed. It's like you only see that little bit of the town, but it does say there's like 1,800 people. So the surrounding area.
I thought it said 14 people.
Did it really? I could have swore that I always see that sign with Perfection Nevada at the start with like 1,000 in there.
I thought